Yeah, we're live. It is 7:40. I'm a little bit late. But tonight we want to talk about 464s. I was going back through Dyno, the Dyno results, as I do, and it dawned on me that I've run a couple of big block Fords, 460s, much to Mark Sanchez's dismay, not 429s, but the 460s. I think the bigger ones are better. He likes the, got to rev. I got to get the high revs on the 429. But I ran a couple of 460s, and I got decidedly different baseline numbers for them. I didn't realize it was that much of a difference, and so I want to talk a little bit about and maybe try to figure out, see if it's an easy thing. Try to figure out why there's such a big difference in the starting points, because we ran them with the same headers, we ran them with the same carburetor, probably the same distributor. I'm thinking. They both had stock intakes. They both had stock heads. Excuse me. There are some differences though, and so we want to talk about that. So if we look at, I have the photo up of the more powerful of the two. First of all, they are different years. I got both of them from the wrecking yard. They came right out. We just cleaned them up and then ran them on the dyno. One of them was a 1968, which is a high compression version. And lo and behold, and you guys can let me know how much you think this affected, it had factory replacement pistons in it, which are a dish piston. But this one was already 60 over, so it was rebuilt at some time in its life. And given the fact that it was 60 over and it was a 1968, this could have been the second rebuild or the third rebuild. Excuse me. I don't know. But at any rate, it was 60 over. So right away, it's bigger. So we know 60 over is going to be, what is that? 454, 468. It's going to be, I think 30 over is about 5 or 6. So it's going to be, 10 or 12 cc's bigger, or 10 or 12 cc's, 10 or 12 cubic inches bigger. So right away, it's bigger. So that's better. Even if we're only making 1 horsepower per cubic inch, which we're nowhere near that. In fact, we're, I think, 0.7 or 0.8 or something like that. Even then, it would only be 10 or 12 horsepower, but it's nowhere near that. It's only a percentage of that. It's probably 7 or 8 horsepower from the displacement. But we certainly have more compression. I don't know exactly what it is, because the other motor was I'm thinking somewhere in the 80s. It would be the carbureted version of a 460 truck motor before they became fuel injection. I don't remember exactly what year it was, and it's not listed I didn't list it in the description. I listed it on one of them, but the other one just says all stock 460, 750 carb, stock intake manifold, inch and 7/8 headers, 18-inch collector extension, optimize air, fuel, and timing. So that one was probably lower compression and had less displacement, certainly, because it wasn't 60 over. I think it was a standard bore on that one. And so we have a couple of things. The compression could have been a fairly good bit. I'd have to look up, and I should have done that actually before I got on. Let's see, 18. Real world compression of it up to an 86, 7.7 to 1. And really that's terrible, because the high compression version is probably going to be 10. So 2 full points of compression, that's going to be a fair bit. That's going to be a fair bit of power. That's going to be 3 or 4% per point. And if it's 2 points, like they're saying that it actually is, that would be a lot. We're starting to hone in on what we think is there. The other thing that I don't know about is, more than likely, the later heads maybe don't flow as well. And I'm not as well versed on 460 Ford heads. The later heads might not flow as well as the 68 heads do. So we'd have to see. Again, I'd have to go back and look and see what to to go down the rabbit hole a little bit and see if there's a valve size difference in these. Because the 460 that I got, even in 1968, it's not going to be like it's a Cobra Jet version or something. But the rated power output's very high because it's a gross rating. But, you know, it was a high compression 460. The other thing that I don't know about, we have a compression difference. I don't know about the head flow. I don't know about the intake manifolds. They're both cast iron, low rise 4-barrel intake manifolds. They're seemed very comparable. None of them were like super Cobra Jet-esque, not in port size. I don't know if the intake manifolds were that much different. One thing that could be different, and I don't know, is on the 460 from 68 up to this 80s version. I don't know what the cam timing is. I don't know if the higher rated earlier version had, you know, wilder cam timing. I would assume that it did, given the muscle car era and given that this was a high performance 460 from a Lincoln, and so it was the highest horsepower, the rated 460 that they had available from the Lincoln. So it was a hot rod Lincoln kind of thing. I would think that it would have stronger, you know, cam timing in it. Even it doesn't really take very much on a motor that big in terms of cam timing to show a fairly significant improvement. This motor was better everywhere. I mean, if I look at the dyno data, we have like basically right at 300 horsepower, 298 horsepower at a whopping 4,300 RPM. Pretty good torque at 438. And we started the load on that one all the way down at 1,900. Well, still above 400 foot-pounds, so it did fairly well. On the high compression version, it made 349 horsepower. Yeah, 349. And torque was up to 492 foot-pounds. It just was basically better everywhere, which is those kinds of things are exactly what you'd expect from compression, exactly what you'd expect from displacement. And then this thing did seem to pull a little bit better on the top, which is indicative of kind of cam timing. So let me know if anybody out there is a big block Ford guy and you know that you know what you know. Let me know. Both of them we ran both of them with a 750, and you know I know guys that especially the big block guys are like, oh, that carburetor is not nearly big enough for a 460. You need an 800 or an 850 or 950 or 1,000 or whatever. You know, even though it's a gross rated 360 or 70 horsepower deal, and it made 350 or whatever. It didn't even make what they're saying that it made back in the day. And then the lower performance one was 300. So a 300 horsepower motor, I would put a 650 on him, honestly. But as a 750, we used the 750 that we used on there because it was the Holley that Westech has that has the external jetting for it. Basically, it has the I forgot what it's called, the speed jetting or something. I can't remember the name of it now. Percy's adjusted jet. That's what it was. And so it just makes for tuning. It just makes it easier. We just take a half turn out of it or add a turn or whatever we need to do depending on whether we need to go rich or lean. And then it's really quick and easy. We don't have to take the bowls off and change the jetting and stuff. It just makes it easy and facilitates that. And really when we're just doing a baseline like this, you know, you want it to be quick. We're getting the baseline out of the way. And in both of these cases, we did this so that we could do a whole series of upgrades for these Fords. And one of them was in comparison to a 454 Chevy, because it was the Junkyard Warrior series that I did. And the 454 was just way better than the 460 was, probably because the 460 that we picked was just not indicative of what something could have been. I know that when I do these kinds of comparisons that it makes whoever the guy that doesn't do well, it makes that group of people mad. Because, I get people, I compared this 350 versus the 360 or whatever. And they're like, you should have picked this one. I'm like, look, I picked a bunch of motors from the 90s or the 80s. It doesn't matter that a 351 Cleveland made more power. That's great. They hadn't offered that for like 10 or 15 years. So it didn't matter. But that doesn't stop the complaints from rolling in. But my thing was, I'm like, there's just a big difference. And there wasn't, looking at the motors, carburetor, cast iron intake manifold, iron heads, same headers, those should be really close to the same. But then when you go in, and this is why I try to take and keep fairly detailed notes about stuff, even stuff that you're not even thinking about at the time, but later on you will be thinking about. So you put that stuff down, and then later on, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years later, you can go back and go, oh, okay, well, this explains it. Displacement, compression, possibly cam timing, possibly intake manifold, possibly cylinder head. All of those things can combine together to make the 50 horsepower difference that we saw. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's all of it. Okay, can we still find late 60s high compression 460 motors in the junkyard? Do you think that they're still out there? These are, that one was a little while ago. But really the question goes for all of them. 440s, 455s, Buicks and Olds and Pontiacs. Are those days long gone? Which is sad. Tim, Eric, what's going on? 460 plus SR71s and an 871. All of that's yes. And then the 460 wouldn't be a 460 anymore. It'd be a 557. John Cools is in the house. Now we know everything's cool. Don't forget to poll, Eric. I got you. I see you. I think the cam degree was off between the timing sets between those years. It probably was. Probably not so much on the early one, but certainly possibly on the later one. Can't justify my building 440 big block Mopar due to operating costs that come with big blocks. They are very thirsty. I heard the 460 blocks have additional webbing on the casting, making them strongest of all of the old blocks. It wouldn't surprise me. We've done 1,000 horsepower stuff, 1,000 horsepower NA stuff on 460 blocks. And we've done big motors on them. I like that you can bore them out that far. You can make 557s out of them. Someone was already in it, might have found a bad lobe or something and just upgraded the cam a little bit. It still was a Ford cam or a reproduction of that, and had a smooth idle and stuff. So it could have been a replacement of something. I wonder if one of them was from a non-smog platform allowing more compression in cam, or the weaker one was simply tired. Yeah, the 68 definitely had more compression. It would have been that way from the factory. If I get a fuel sponsor for a vehicle where I don't care about weight, then I'll build a big block. No brakes, remember, miles per gallon, not miles per gallon. Maybe you don't Can-Am replica. Only if big block Chevys had big bores. Only if, yeah. Thick walls and tall decks. Yeah, it's hard to... That's the one thing nice about the 464 that a 454 Chevy does not have. It does not have the ability to go that big. Budget big block Ford heads, Dove heads with porting worth the time and investment, or what, aluminum heads? I personally like aluminum heads on anything, particularly big blocks, just for the weight, because it's ridiculous to work on an iron head. I have a good video up where we took a 460. In fact, the one that started out, the high compression one, where we took that 460 and made 600 horsepower with it. And we did it with the iron heads. We sent them out to the guys at MPG, and they ported them. They supplied a roller cam. We put a big carbureted intake manifold on it, Dominator, and it made over 600. It did exactly what they said. I think that they put like Cobra Jet size valves in it and stuff too. Just all the things that you do to get more airflow. I don't remember what they flowed. It was a pretty good bit though. I'd have to go back and read some of my stories if they're even still out there. I don't even know. Some of that stuff is frustrating because the I'm disappointed with Discovery and Motor Trend and stuff, that all of those things, it's the internet. All of that stuff should stay up there. I do like that the 460s can be made to be made big. I mean, you can add almost 100 cubic inches. It's a lot. It's a lot. Can you tell me, LS1 with head and cam upgrade? I watched your videos with all the intake manifold tests, but you've never tested the Speedmaster stack manifold. I have tested that, which would give you more mid-range. I have tested stack injection. I have tested the Cathedral port version and the LS3 version. Aluminum heads with help with detonation and cooling. Yep, they do that as well. Fast LSXR 102 or Speedmaster stack manifold, which is better on an LS1? I think that the fast would be better, but I can look and see. Dyno results. LS Cathedral port. Trying to remember which one we tested it on. I know I ran the red, was it Redline stack injection, which is really big on a LS1. I know we did that way back in the day. That was early on. Cross ram, BTR, LS intake shootout. I don't think we did it on when we were doing that. Speedmaster manifold. Test description. No, that's got to be the... Yeah, that's not it. Let's see. I'm looking. Bear with me. It might take me a little while to go through this to find out which displacement I tested this on. Might be a stroker. Yeah, I don't really want to go scroll through all of, I mean, it's thousands of stuff. I don't want to go through all this data right now, but I have run stack injection both on an LS3 and on a Cathedral port. I think on the Cathedral port, or at least on one of them, I also did like a cross ram, which was really long and was fairly good down low, but planning a dark horse Bronco out of a bullnose rig, so most amount of grunt on the throttle. So what is your engine choice, Jesse? Yeah, the 460, the early 460 stuff, or a Cobra Jet or Super Cobra Jet Ironhead would have the most potential if that's what you're trying to do. But that's not what I would pick for low speed power, though. Have you ever boosted an LT1? I haven't yet. What's the best intake manifold for a boosted LQ9? The boost and the intake manifold don't make any difference. They don't care about that. You choose the manifold for the RPM range that you want to run. So where are you wanting to run the motor? Forget about the boost. Just set that aside. That doesn't make any difference. What is the motor and what are you going to do with it? Are you wanting to run it to 8,000 or is it only going to be 6,500? You know, what RPM range are you going to run the motor in? I have a 429 in a drag car now, revved to 8,600 with Blue Thunder heads. 8th mile times doesn't improve much. Shifting over 6,500. It probably just means that you're way past the power peak of that. I can't see how with a stock head that you would make power at 8,600, even a ported one. just doesn't. I don't know. Maybe on a 420. That seems like. Are these titanium valves and everything in this 8600 big block Ford? I would think it would have to be. Just saw your EFI dual plane stream today, only a couple days after ordering the Holley single plane EFI for my 454. Should I send it back and get an RPM air gap to weld injectors to? A dual plane manifold will make more low and mid range power than a single plane. I have a friend who has a 460 in his Ranchero. That's good. Mark Sanchez has one in his Mustang. Have you done any gas porting piston tests for ring sealing? I haven't done that specific versus like where we take a piston out and do a piston swap like that. I haven't done anything like that. So MPG are the last word on 385 porting. I don't think so. I'm just saying that the ones that we did, that we tested, that's what we used. It's frustrating unless it's changed that there isn't a fast style manifold made for the small, all the stuff. I agree. I've been trying to get one done for a long time. Way better for most applications, the short RAM or long RAM for EFI. Yep, I agree. Packaging would be, hey Bruno, packaging would be difficult for some of the Siamese port heads and stuff. It would be difficult to do that, but a fast manifold for a small block Ford would be awesome. Hello. Well, both of you, huh? Did you scare away whatever was out front? A cat or a possum or something? Milo. Go get Milo. You go get Milo. You go tell him. Tell him everything's okay. Huh? Tell him. What? I know. Mommy will be home pretty soon. She will. You guys better say hi to her. Okay. What? I know. Okay. I know, Brady. I know. He's getting love and you're not. I get it. You guys are good babies. I don't know what you smell on me. I haven't been around another dog. Titanium, just the rockers, all the good stuff. Oh, yeah, that's good. Trying the same head intake combo. They're sniffing the heck out of me. Trying the same head intake combo at a 514 with bigger camshaft, thinking tunnel ram, 350s. I've never been disappointed with the tunnel ram. Doveheads ported, claiming 319. And 180 on the exhaust at 700. Okay. Australia, probably go fast LS6R on my LS1, easy maintenance and setting up stack. The problem, well, you have a number of problems with stack. It first of all, it looks awesome. It looks way better than the fast does. That's awesome. And they can make power. You got to get the right one, but getting them synced can be problematic. And then even bigger than that, I'd say is like the air cleaner situation. I don't know how you get a good air, like the trophy trucks have a good one, have a good way to do it because they have the Hilborns or Crowers or whatever they're using. And then they put it inside a box with a big, gigantic size flat filter. And they can do that. But having to cover all that up to make a filter assembly for it, I think is just kind of ruins it. I don't know what year the Ranchero was, but it moved out. Yeah, 460s can make good power. I think Mark's car was maybe a 10-second Mustang or something with the 460 in it. 1,500 to 2,500, gentle throttle traffic, 3,000 to 6,000 when I'm on it. Off-road, lots of suspension travel. I want this horse to buck with a 460. Okay. Well, look at the 460 that I did with those guys, and you can look at the power curve that's supplied with it, and you can get an idea if that's going to work. The cam is pretty big in that thing. Is it safe to assume turbos negate the downside of single planes having worse low-end power when boost comes in? No, it's not. What is safe to say is that whatever intake manifold you have, if you have boost, you're going to make more power. So if boost comes on in the low RPM range, you'll have more than you had NA. But boost doesn't fundamentally change the intake manifold. If you make more NA torque down low, like you would with a dual plane over a single plane, when you add boost to that, the multiplier effect takes into account. It takes effect. And so you make even more with a dual plane than you do with a single plane. The question isn't that. The intake manifold always does the same thing, NA or under boost. It always works the same. The question is, if you have boost, even with a single plane, and you have a lot of torque, do you already have more torque than you have traction? So if you do, adding even more torque is just going to mean, and you don't have traction, it's just going to mean you have even less traction. And so maybe that's not beneficial. My father has a 460 board to 521 with like some aluminum super cobra jet heads. Okay. Those are good. I've done tests on those. If I could get 10.5 to 1 or more without decking the block and dome pistons and heads, I might think about building a 440, like a VFI and a transmission with more than 3 speeds. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, an overdrive transmission. And even more so in a big block where you need the extra fuel mileage is good. What tuning platform would you use for a turbo LM7 on the stock ECU? HP tuners. Yeah, any of those are fine. And Matt over at Sloppy has tunes that you could just plug in and they work. If I want an electric wastegate to run different tunes, well, you wouldn't run different tunes necessarily. And an electric wastegate is probably not what you're going to want on a street turbo LM7. Anyways, you're just going to want it. You're going to want an electronic controller, a boost controller, not an electronic wastegate. They're different things. You're just controlling the signal to the wastegate electronically. And you can do that with I don't know if you have to ask Matt about that. I don't know if he has a stock ECU that also controls a wastegate controller. I don't know if that's true. Orla stack injection 427 Windsor equals nightmare. It looks awesome, like in a Cobra or something, but yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. I didn't realize how long it takes to file rings by hand. Took an hour and a half. Got them all set, 32 top and second ring. Getting that last thousands was crazy without going over. Honestly, if you went over by 2 or 3, it wouldn't make any difference. Mud truck with 64-inch tractor tires. Were there any variations of heads on 460s? Yes, they are. There are different ones. Eric, you're getting all the ads. Did Mopar Dodge trucks have an ultra strong turbo 400? Yeah, the 727 transmission is strong for the Dodge. I dug the Mile to Wild 460 video. I agree that an HR cam that is more daily truck friendly on the throttle will be more than enough to make the Bronco Stampede. I agree. I wouldn't pick we wanted to make 600 horsepower in the combination, and we did, and it worked good. And I don't even, now that I think about it, that might have been a flat tappet cam. It might have been a solid flat tappet cam and not a roller. Let's see here. Because it might have been that big block Ford 460 baseline rocker. Okay, that's the mild thing. MPG. This is the gangster one. 609 at 6,300. That's not terribly high. 557 at 5,000. Let's see what our test description is. Yeah, it is a solid flat tappet cam, but big. 638 lift, 264, 268 at 50, and 110. It's a Cam Research company is the name of the company. Cam Research Co. Solid flat tappet cam. And then it had MPG ported stock C8 iron early 460 heads, springs and valve upgrade. It had a Ford Racing single plane with a 4500 flange on it, and a 1050 Ultra Dominator, 173 roller rockers, 2.125-inch headers. Jetting was 71 square, timing was 38, and it was that 60 over short block. So it worked good. Pinion stall converters with big blocks. Let's see. And gearing, 2450 weight, 1/8 mile was flat tappet. I think yes to all of that. A big block tends to have more stall speed than a small block. If you put, for instance, a 2800 stall converter behind a big block and a small block, it's going to stall it higher than 2800. If it stalls at 2800 on the small block, it's probably going to stall higher than that on the big block because it makes so much more torque there. Or Eric, is it because of the ads? Is that why? Bobby, what's going on? I really don't like over cam motors for daily drivers. I agree. People are much happier with small cams and small turbos. Those going larger on the same type of engine, say an LS, LT, make what would be a large cam and a 5.3 feel more like a daily driver. Yes, the displacement tends to tame the cam down. No brakes. I had a stock 727 small transmission with a shift kit. Lasted 6 years with a 6,000-pound van with nitrous. Yeah, the 727 is stout. Good evening. I'm tuning an Edelbrock 500 on a single plane. What is otherwise a stock rebuilt 258. So an inline 6-cylinder AMC. Cool. I can get cruise lean enough, but wide open throttle is still 11-1. Can you adjust just the secondaries on that carburetor? I don't think I've played with that very much. Most reliable build for an LM7 to make 450 horsepower and rev to 8,000. You're not going to make that a reliable combination. It's going to, well, you can, it's just going to be expensive. And if you want a 5.3 that revs to 8,000, more than likely it's going to make more than 450 horsepower. And I have 500 horsepower videos up, and I also have 8,000 RPM videos up. What's a reasonable amount to pay for an LM7 out of a wrecking yard? Anywhere from a few $100s to $1,000 or more, depending on where it is and who you're getting it from. And what I look for, Nathan, is look for a crashed vehicle, hopefully in the back, that was taken out because of an accident that didn't hurt the engine. If the thing is all perfect and it's in the yard, it could be because it has a bad engine or transmission. So a crash one usually tells you that it was running like right before it came into the yard. Locked out. Can I leave the secondaries to make up for the over-rich wide open throttle primaries on the Edelbrock? It usually doesn't work out that way. Secondaries are jetted. The pump shot should be transition. Turbo LQ9, best intake manifold for 7,500 RPM. Running a BTR Turbo Stage 2 kit. Looking for something that will be good up high. 7,500 plus is short runner stuff, like a high ram, excuse me, or the BTR, their equalizer or their Trinity intake manifold probably would be good for that. Have you ever tested B&A Street Boss dual plane intake manifold 302 with 2V Cleveland heads? I've never run 2V Cleveland heads on a 302. I've never tried that. I've only run 4V. I've run Boss 302s basically, but I've never done that on the 302. Whenever I see a 4853 rev to 8,000, I immediately look for motors in the classified. What more do you want? Yeah, I don't understand the need for. I mean, I understand that they sound good and people like high revving motors. I don't understand wanting to build that not for any kind of driver. What's a good camshaft for a Chevy 350 4-bolt main for a Chevy truck? Look at the RV style cams from Comp. Look at something that's like a 206 212 at 50 cam. If I had a 390 Holly or a 500-ish VS, I'd throw it on. Heck, if I had a Q-Jet, I'd throw it on. You want a polished intake, Eric? Sad to see what happened to NMRA. I know I saw lots of posts on that they killed both of those. What aluminum heads would you pick for a spicy street 460? I think Speedmaster has heads for that. An Airflow Research 460 head is a really good choice for that. I don't know what the pricing is on that stuff, but an Airflow Research head is really good. TrickFlow has, lots of guys have good heads for that. Had a Summit 214, 224, my Pontiac 350, pulled 15-ish inches at idle and ran well. Yeah, a 214 cam is, and I think 15 inches of vacuum is like getting on the edge of drivability for a daily. That's why I suggested starting at a 206. Heard of any 460 turbos? I've seen them, but I haven't run one. But yeah, they would be good because the turbo just adds to what's there. No brakes. Why are you seeing yourself out? I see you can still find 460s. Have to find a junkyard that has older cars or RVs. But heck, you can barely find 80s cars these days. Yeah, the 460 stuff in particular, we can find those in like the Ford trucks. We still see that stuff, but those are not the good ones. The 460 that I got from the Lincoln, this was from a Continental or something. Those were good ones. I don't see a lot of that. Is an E4OD my only junkyard option for big block Ford 4-speed with overdrive trans? Or an A4OD is not an didn't they have a version of that was not electronic? I agree. My small block Mopar stroke to 408. We'll have a rev limiter set at 65. Nitrous will turn off at 63. Shift point 61. Cam says it can go to 68. Yeah, this number that they give for cams is not a number you should be using in your build because it doesn't tell you where the cam is actually effective because it can't. It can't tell you that, from idle to 5,000 or whatever. No cam is really good there. That's way too big of a range. And also, is that on, like if it's for a small block Ford, is that on a 221? Is it on a 260, 289, 302, 351? Stroker version of a 351? All that stuff is going to vary. So, just take that stuff with a grain of salt. Mexico City is in the house. Don't the 79 and up 460 blocks have deeper cylinder skirts, which are better suited for stroking? I don't know if that's the case. I thought that the later ones had required different. Maybe it was just the heads and the intake that were different. Great to see you're still going at it. Been a fan of yours for years. I've been doing it a long time. Yes. What rear end would be good for high horsepower, third gen Firebird for drag racing? Should I go for something limited slip or welded? You can do that either way. Most guys that do welded are doing it because of their budget. But a 9-inch is good. A 12 bolt is good. You can make all of those strong enough for what you're doing. Near. The E4D is one of the reasons why I want to swap my drivetrain out for something more modern. Today I found some time to bake peanut butter infused cookies. The problem is they're so yummy, it's hard to walk by without snatching one. We'll have our vote for picking up where Brule left off. Yeah, they won't. I mean, if you're talking about for Engine Masters, that's not going to happen. They're not doing that anymore. Have you ever had issues with heat buildup destroying stock valves or pistons in high boost applications? Not heat itself, but certainly you could have detonation created by that, have problems. Nathan, thank you very much. Tomorrow's date night, so I'll put that to good use. Always good to get more drinks for Lisa. I know the weak point of the Dodge B300 Dana 60 is the 30 spline axles. They only have their 30 splines. I have a Spartan locker and 4130 Dutchman axles. Did you what are the upgrades for that Dana 60? I haven't seen those. Like when we do the 8.8s, you go from a 28 to a 31, or I think that they have 35 spline stuff too. Starting to lose count on how many I've had. That's a lot. Todd, I want you to get your motor in and not immediately go out and hurt it. I want you to get your motor in and be able to go drive it around every day and have fun. So what do we got to do to make that happen? Do we have to pre-test it? What do we need to do? I feel like it's getting tossed in with a wing and a prayer. Pizza's much better than date night. Not with my wife. Nothing's better than Lisa. I do like pizza though. But the place that we go to two places. One of them has great pizza. The other, in fact, my favorite. The other one, they don't offer pizza, but they have good drinks though. Usually once a week, I will go get for the boys, mostly for Owen, but sometimes for Noah. I will go get Little Caesars pizza. I like it because it's fast and convenient. It used to be $5. It's not anymore. But that's all good. And I do like pizza. It's hard to ruin pizza. Make sure, remember, we're in October right now, and in November, I'm going to have a store up, and the price on the cams is also going to go up. So get those orders in. But you should be able to buy the cam and springs and turbos and, I don't know, intercoolers and injectors and stuff. We're working on lots of stuff. Currently running 4th gen posi rear end with 383s. But it's an NA LT1 at only 400 horsepower. I worry it would quickly give up 500 to 600. I find that my 8.8 in my Mustang was the original one all the way through. The only thing we ever did, we did change gears in it only because I kept trying to change gears to optimize it for the Silver State, which was dumb. But I mean, and awesome. I mean, at the same time. Because going really fast is cool. But I think that what makes the rear end go is the same thing that makes the transmission go, and it's the abuse. It's the shock loading it, and then particularly if you get the thing to hook up and then not hook up and then hook up again, and you get the twisty hanger kind of thing going on, and then you can snap stuff. I've become interested in spectator drags where they race around small oval tracks and wonder how a Volvo twin turbo 5-cylinder engine would work in my 03 Accord. I've watched some of that stuff. It's interesting that they race like that. Definitely realize it's October, trying to get my last miles in before they throw the salt down. I slice the tomatoes into big slices, full strips of bacon, scrambled eggs, feta cheese. Yeah, no on feta cheese and no on tomatoes. Bacon, yes. Scrambled eggs, that's fine. Chicken, that's fine. If you're talking about putting that all on pizza, you're talking about putting that on a sandwich, that's fine. But again, no on the feta and no on the tomato. I'll show you the outlet of the turbo exhaust side. It's heavily saturated with oil, and the inlet side is normal color. So are you sure that you didn't like break the turbo? I've had barbecue chicken pizza, and it was actually good. Like I said, for me, it's hard to ruin a. And I like chicken on almost all things. Chicken tacos, awesome. All of that's good stuff. In fact, when I was down, I don't know, has it been almost a year? When I was down hunting pythons in Florida, like you do, somebody had sent me a text. They'd heard that I was there and invited me to come over. It wasn't going on at the time that I was already in Florida. They said, yeah, come over for one of those kinds of races. And I think it might have been at Freedom Factory. It wasn't Garrett. It wasn't Cletus's deal. It was somebody else's deal, that some group of guys or whatever that got together to rent the track and said, yeah, come over and we'll put you in a car or whatever. Hopefully I still know how to get around a track pretty well. Is it worth trying to build the T5 transmission I have, or just buy something stronger? I don't know how much money you'd have to throw into a T5 to actually make it withstand like drag strip launches and stuff. I did carnitas in my taco. That's all good too. Richard, how could I hurt it if the highest RPM is 4583? Well, if you have 10 pounds of boost at 4,500 RPM, then the torque is really high. And if the timing is too high, then it will break something. Or if it doesn't have enough, if it's 13-1, it will break something. But it from what you're describing with the turbo, it sounds like you didn't break the motor though. It sounds like you hurt a turbo, which would be the better of the things, the easier thing to replace, certainly. Can we still find late 60s high compression 460 motors in the junkyards? 74% are saying no, Richard, that time has passed. Thomas, thanks for all the videos. Like seeing all the different combinations. Back on high compression stuff, what do you think would be good LS combo to push 14 plus? Could it be done on non-race gas? No. Well, you wanted to you could do it on E85 if you're trying to run 14-1 static. The problem with trying to get 14-1 static is, how do you do that? What displacement are you going to be doing to make that compression? Because trying to get 14-1 out of a 4.8 is going to be next to impossible. The dome that you have to have, or the chamber size that you have to have, is just ridiculous. That's why you doing it on bigger displacement motors, like you see 14 or 15-1 big block Chevys, because it's easier to get. Like if you have a 64cc chamber in a big block Chevy that's 550 inches, pretty easy to get that high compression. But you're not going to do that on a 4.8. And then trying to get it to work on pump gas, those don't go together. If you're trying to make that high compression, you should be expecting to run good gas in it. Jose, what's going on? Thank you very much. That'll definitely buy a drink. I put together a small block Ford 347, Richard Holdner spec. I have my own spec. Edelbrock heads, 10.5-1, Comp Extreme Energy Cam, running a ProFlow 4. Is there a spark plug you recommend? Whatever plug that, I don't know what heads, I don't know if I've ever run Edelbrock heads. I probably would have gone with an Airflow Research or a Trick Flow head. But Edelbrock should have a spark plug recommendation. If you bought the heads, if they were new, they're going to tell you what head you want. Most of those aluminum heads for small block Fords are like what we call the 3/4 reach gasketed plug. And so on that, I would run a heat range 7 or something. Tim's saying copper auto lights. I've had nothing but good luck with copper auto lights. Alternate universe, 74% of junkyards won't contain a 460. That's probably true. I don't see as many of the 460s. I don't think. It'd be interesting. I should do that. When I go to the wrecking yard, I should tally on the Ford stuff in the vans and the trucks and see if there are more 302s, 351s, or 460s. Which one of those do I see most often? I went, ooh, when I saw a roller 351. Those are good. I like those. Those are kind of always on the wish list. Expedia.com. And they didn't do the 460 didn't have a factory hydraulic roller. See, guys, I told you they were coming home. Got to put an 871 on an LS1. Okay, we did that on a 383 stroker. Anything I should look at doing to the motor other than ring gap will be on methanol. There's a 2020 cam in it. Yeah, I wouldn't have picked that cam, but it will work. Make sure you have springs in it. I only run NGK racing plugs, either 10s or 11s. Older than 11. Yeah, if you're running all that nitrous, so that's what we would put in it. We would put it at the 10, certainly, in the boosted stuff. I mean, I think that the lowest we ever go is a 7 or an 8. I ran a 460 a long time ago with a lot of nitrous. Cobra Jet heads, got it in the 9s. Early 90s, 3,600-pound car, Holly water injection. Nice. When you test stock cast iron cranks, like in your Big Bang series, do you know if they fatigue and despite surviving that power for one pull will eventually blow if continually use that power? I don't ever do those things with one pull. So to give you an idea, when I did the first 4.8 and also the 5.3, when we did that Big Bang series, both of those had 70 pulls over 1,000 horsepower. So we didn't just put it on kill and make one run and go, okay, we're done. We went through a lot of testing to make sure that everything was right and made a lot of runs and snuck up on the eventual power output. And then so it made a lot of runs like that. And they will make a lot of runs like that. It's not just one thing. No factory big block Ford hydraulic roller. I don't think that they made a 460 hydraulic roller from the factory. But there are retrofit kits, I'm sure. I have an 0153. All the cylinder walls have deep pits in them. Is it worth saving the block, or should I just go to the wrecking yard and get another one? If you could, what a lot of guys do is you could bore it out, put aftermarket pistons in it, or bore it out and find some used 5.7 pistons and put those in. The real test of a crank for repetitive stress, in my opinion, salt flats or in a boat. A boat, certainly. I don't think a salt flat thing is really... I don't think that that's nearly as bad as doing like a NASCAR run or a road race run. I think the salt flat thing is easier on it. Most of those guys are on the throttle, at least at full throttle, for a minute or like 30 or 40 seconds, probably. And that's a lot compared to guys used to doing it for 10 seconds or whatever at the drag strip. So it seems like a lot. But like the Silver State was 42 minutes. That's a lot. A lot of times at Bonneville, guys with real high horsepower stuff, they're all going to have forged cranks and those things anyway. But they're like on and on. They're pedaling the thing because they're pedaling for traction. RJ, usually pits in the bore is from rust, almost always. So from sitting with valves open. And what I've done on a lot of those is just take the pistons out, ball hone it, and then put them back in. And it runs fine. In fact, we did that on when I didn't index plugs on the DZ302 the first time around, and we started the thing up and it broke all the plugs, smashed them all up because the domes hit the spark plugs, and it made lots of marks in the cylinder walls and in the pistons. We just shined them back up. We ball honed it and ran it. And then after I ran it, then I took it out and took it to the machine shop, and they honed it properly. And we reran it, and it did nothing. It didn't make any more power when we did that. Richard, are you able to view a data log? Is it a Holley data log? I don't have any Holley stuff here, so I can't look at that. Well, I might be able to look at that on my laptop. Ever thought of testing a Big Bang 6.2 truck LS or even aluminum block 6 liter to see if the blocks are weak? I know that the blocks are weak. They are weaker than the iron blocks, particularly the LS3, the LS2, and the LS1. I wouldn't ever use those for 1500 horsepower stuff. The 5.3 block guys are using successfully in drag racing. I'm only asking about the crank because I have a cast iron 454 I want to use on the circuit around 10 PSI. It's just going to blow up after a couple laps. I'll change plans. I don't think that you'll have that problem based on the strength of the crank. I think that you won't. I think that you would hurt something based on tuning or lack of oiling or something else. I don't think that it's going to be that. It makes sense. When I took the block apart, there's rainwater in it from sitting outside. That's what causes those spottiness. And sometimes when you get water in there, usually whenever, if the intake is open or the valves are open or a spark plug hole is open, you get water in there. And if the piston's down, the water sits in one spot, and then it'll make like this little half moon shape of wherever the water is touching the wall. Because eventually it will go through. If there was, oiling or something on the wall, residual stuff from running, wherever the water is sitting, it just makes a big rust spot right there. We were talking at work in the last 13 years, and between 900 and 1,000 passes on nitrous, 8th mile, it's only 125 miles. I know it's not really very much, and not very much time, right? So big block Ford hydraulic roller retrofit kit is worth it no matter what the heads. No, I'm not saying you can't put a flat tappet camshaft in there. The one that we did worked great. I don't know if you still can do that. I don't know what the situation is with flat tappet lifters for Fords or their camshafts. Maybe if I was going to do it, I would nitride the camshaft and maybe the bottom of maybe DLC the bottom of the lifter or something like that. But somebody has to have hydraulic roller stuff for that. And I just like hydraulic roller stuff because you know that you're not going to have a problem. Although I see people having problems with LS stuff. If you were to turbocharge a 2020 F250 with a 6.2 V8, what would you do to that motor to get it turbo ready to tow a race trailer? Is that why you're turbocharging it, to tow it? I would definitely put ring gap in it. And you're going to have to put bigger injectors in it. And I'm hoping that that's not a direct injected motor, right? I don't know about the 6.2. Would an LM753 be solid under boost if I made it into a 383? I wouldn't do that if I was going to boost a 5.3. I would just boost the 5.3. You could make more power with a 5.3 than you'll want to use. Doing it with a 383 is not going to change anything. It's just going to make the bore bigger, and it's going to make the bore thinner and weaker, and the area between the cylinders is going to be smaller. So if anything, it would be less likely to seal and be more potentially problematic with a 383 than it would just be with a 5.3. And like I said, I mean, how much power do you want to make? Do you want to make 1,000 horsepower? It's easy to do with a 5.3. My friend and I just scored a 70 Torino. Very nice. Body's rusted out, but the 429 C6 combo is in running condition. The 9-inch rear end had a 350 track lock. Oh, that's good. I want to be in the flat spot free zone. That's good. 76% saying no. So we got like 3/4 and 1/4. 3/4 to the no, 1/4 to the yes. On that note, it is time to go. Thank you guys all for showing up, as always, and I will be back tomorrow morning. Happy Friday.